one of the best lawyers in town. His name is Arthur Dahlia. I mispronounced it last time.
I-dollar. Like an dollar bill.
Like dollar
Attaboy.
bill, of which you charge many. Okay, I got it. All right, let's run them down. Trump case. Would you have filed this case? Would you have signed on to that case?
Here's the truth. You want to talk about money. Most of those cases you take on as a lawyer on a contingency fee. So you
Right.
say, I'm only going to get paid if I win. I would not take that case on a contingency fee because I think you're correct. I don't think they're going to win. During the discovery process, they may be able to get that transcript as part of evidence, as part of the discovery process. And unless CBS is successful in putting some sort of a gag order on that evidence, some sort of, it's called a protective order, Trump could then release it and achieve the goal that he may want to achieve. They may actually dismiss the case after that. Okay, we got what we want, we're done. But as a lawyer, you better make sure you're getting paid up front because, as you said, Mr. O'Reilly, the First Amendment gives a lot of protections to the press, as it should. So I don't think ultimately he would be successful, even though they went to a venue where they knew the case was going to a judge that would be sympathetic to President Trump based on his political leanings and the fact that.
But you said they might be able to get the transcript. They'd have to be able to get it because that's the crux of the case. The judge couldn't deny Trump's lawyers the opportunity to see what the case hinges on. That would be impossible, right?
Unless they won a summary judgment motion to dismiss.
All right, that's a whole different thing. If they got the case thrown out, and they filed last week to get the case thrown out, do you think it's going to get thrown out?
It's a close call. I mean, most cases are not a close call, but it is a close call because the First Amendment it really safeguards the media from being bullied or
I don't think it's going to get thrown out. I don't think the conservative judge in Texas is going to throw it out. No. And if he doesn't throw it out, CBS can't appeal that rule, and that it has to go forward then, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. They're also asking for it to be moved to New York, the venue where CBS is located, and they may not get that either. So if it does stay,
why would a conservative judge be sympathetic to CBS?
Right.
They're not. It's like the Florida judge in the Mar-a-Lago case was sympathetic, thought it was an overreach by the Biden administration to go after Trump like that. Okay, let's get to the shooting of the CEO, the United Healthcare CEO. So far, I think the authorities have handled it very well. From the Pennsylvanians who got the guy, and then the New York cops went out, they got him here. Evidence is overwhelming. If you were the defense attorney, you'd be up against it, correct?
Yes, I would definitely be up against it. And, but this is where you have to get creative. I just want to go back to the police work because I did speak to Chief of Patrol John Shell yesterday, and he wanted to make sure that citizens got credit that they deserve. This was a lot of old-fashioned police work getting his picture out there, but then the citizens were the ones who really helped. But the cops were they were on the verge of getting his DNA. They were on the verge of getting his fingerprints from the cell phone. His DNA was from a bottle that he dropped at Starbucks that they saw, and they were able to get that bottle. So he was, on his way to being in some big trouble. Bill, in terms of a defense like this, where he has a written confession on him, a lot of the job of the defense attorney, any defense attorney, is to make sure everyone plays by the rules. All of his rights are observed and maintained and stood up for. And then you write a book on his life, and apparently he had a bad operation that affected him. And you hope maybe the prosecutor says, all right, as opposed to 25 to life, which is what you're going to get after trial, we'll give you 23 to life to save us the money, time, effort, and energy.
2 years? Nah. I don't think this guy's ever going to get out. I don't think he's ever going to get out because it was so blatant and such a horror. A message has to be sent. But I understand you're trying to mitigate the sentence to some degree. Hopefully the guy can rehabilitate himself. I might even go for insanity on this guy. He's pretty out there. So maybe if I'm the defense attorney, I'm saying, he doesn't know what he's doing. That doesn't work very much, though, right?
It does not. It very rarely works. And the
Yep.
other thing people brought up is there's an excuse called extreme emotional disturbance that takes murder down to manslaughter, so you can
Manslaughter.
get out.
Not going
There's
to
a
make that.
definitive sentence.
Right.
But
He,
yeah,
wa-
that
he
has
was
that's a
he
passion.
was in the videotape. He's just too cool about what he's doing and all that. He's not agitated.
Meditated. It's
Right.
very, very planned and premeditated.
All right. So Arthur Penny, then we go into the last case that we're talking about here. I predicted this. It wasn't a hard prediction. I still have faith, even though it's New York City and the folks, that they reasonable doubt all over the place. But the key question is the district attorney in Manhattan, Alvin Bragg, a George Soros progressive, okay? He knew there was reasonable doubt all over the place because the police had interviewed the people riding in the subway car. Bragg had all of that information in front of him. He knew that his odds of getting a conviction were low, and he did it anyway. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong, but you showed that clip of the angry supporters of the deceased here, and that's the constituency that obviously Alvin Bragg was trying to
But that's
please.
political. That's not justice.
Well, Bill, unfortunately, the days of Frank Hogan, the Manhattan District Attorney, and Bob Morgenthau, where politics was not supposed to play a role, are gone way out the window.
All right.
And these
Any
decisions
chance?
are-
Any chance Hochul removes Bragg now? Fires
No,
Bragg?
no.
No
Are
chance.
you kidding me? She's afraid of her own shadow. She's going to take down the first
Well,
African American district attorney in Manhattan.
her approval rating's 35%. Her approval rating's 35%. And after the congestion parking, it's going to be 25.
She does not have the intestinal fortitude to do so. What's insane to me, Bill, is people out there are trying to compare the crime that this Luigi kid did to what Daniel Penny did. And that really gets me upset. It's ridiculous.
But again, that's just loons. I mean, I don't even bother them. All right, counselor, it's always good to talk with you. You can listen to Arthur on his own radio show, the Arthur Idala, as in money, Power Hour on AM 97, The Answer in New York. So have a nice Christmas, and thanks for helping us out. Really appreciate it, Arthur. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks for all you do for our country. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And joining us now from Washington, D.C. is the aforementioned Attorney General of South Carolina, Alan Wilson. Pleased to have you. The fairness thing in Tennessee, South Carolina, and other states, parents say, hey, we don't care. In fact, we want our child to transition. And it doesn't matter from male to female and female to male. And you, the state, have no right to stop that. And you say?
Well, first off, the states have an inherent general police power to do all kinds of things. We regulate the practice of medicine as a profession. That is done at the state level, not the federal level. States has been upheld by the Supreme Court. States can pass reasonable restrictions on when a minor can ride in the front seat of a car, when a minor can buy tobacco, when a minor can consume alcohol, when a minor can even consent to having sex. This state of Tennessee, South Carolina, and 23 other states have passed laws passing restrictions on something that is far worse than those things I just mentioned, an irreversible procedure that can never be turned back. Taking hormones, engaging in chemical castration or genital mutilation is something that cannot be undone. The states have determined that is something we want to place a reasonable restriction on. Again, this is not a parental rights issue. Parents have the rights to raise their children however they deem fit. But again, you can't withhold an education from your child. You can't beat your child. You can't put your infant in the front seat of a car in our state. You certainly can't give your minor child alcohol.
Okay.
So these are reasonable restrictions.
So the way you're framing this, though, if a parent or parents want their child to be able to transition, they're abusing that child. That's really what you're saying.
Well, what I'm saying is that the state has a compelling interest to protect the health and welfare of its children. And again, a parent taking their child out of school and never educating them or giving them alcohol when they're 10 years old could harm the health and welfare of their children. I'm not necessarily accusing parents of, I personally think having your 10 or 12-year-old engage in gender transition surgery is child abuse. But if you believe that is the case, then you can obviously raise your child however you want. You just can't, have irreversible surgeries performed on them. That's all we're saying.
And you're getting a third party involved. You're getting the state to sanction it. If the state
Correct.
doesn't, if the state says it's the majority of states allow this, so they're basically saying we don't care if the parents are down with it, we'll go along. What separates Tennessee, South Carolina, the other 23 states from the permissive states? Because it's a big gulf, I think. Wouldn't you agree?
I haven't read every single gender transition law for minors in every state, but generally they're all the same. And there's very negligible differences. Obviously, some states allow you to perform it as early as you want. There are parents in some states, blue states, transitioning their children as early as 2 or 3 years old. I mean, it's really, to me, that is real child abuse. It's horrible. But the states, remember, the states have inherent power, the authority, the general police power to regulate themselves.
That's not a dispute. You're going to win the case. Supreme Court's going to rule 6-3 that the state of Tennessee and every other state has the right to regulate this. But I'm trying to get into the gulf between New York State, where I am now, and your state, South Carolina. So you feel compelled to protect the minors there from a decision that you rightly described as life-altering, can't be reversed. Yet the people here in New York, they don't care. Can you explain that dichotomy?
Listen, I cannot get in the head of somebody who would support gender or genital mutilation and chemical castration on a minor child. I just can't. I can't do that.
So you don't know. You never talked to anybody.
I don't have an answer.
Yeah. Okay. It's fascinating, though. It really is, because the gulf is so huge. All right, let's go to the undocumented Obamacare people. Now, you're going to be accused of being heartless and putting these people at risk. They're here, and now the federal judge says, nah, you can't, even if they don't have any money, we're not giving them health care. How do you justify that?
Well, first off, I mean, it's the law. It's federal law. I mean, I can't imagine anyone in America expecting to go to any European country or Latin American country and expecting to live on their welfare system. Again, this isn't about being heartless. This is about following the law. I thought it was heartless to have the immigration policies that Biden and Harris had for the last 4 years, where you allowed tens of thousands, millions of people to en masse across the Rio Grande into the interior of the United States, releasing them. We can't find 300,000 minors right now who came across the southern border. To me, that is heartless. And Bill, I want to remind you of something I take very personally. It was in 2009, a congressman on the floor of Congress yelled out at the president, "You lie," when he said that no illegal aliens would ever receive taxpayer-funded health care. That was someone I happened to be related to, Joe Wilson, if you remember. And here we are. We have an administration, then Vice President Biden, President Biden now, doing exactly what the Democrats said they wouldn't do. Where does it end? It's a slippery slope that you can't fund the entire world's welfare program.
No, listen, I understand that. But if I'm sitting next to Pope Francis, he's going to say, Mr. Attorney General, these are human beings. They don't have any money. They're here, probably shouldn't be, but they're sick. What do we do?
Well, I would tell Pope Francis, you don't violate the law. I mean, obviously, there's all kinds of social services, there's faith-based groups, there's organizations out there that can help those people in need. But basically, when you basically reward people for committing a crime and you incentivize more of that crime, the system can't withstand it. It cannot hold up. And we're just going to incentivize. Ronald Reagan tried to deal with this 40 years ago. It was supposed to be temporary. Barack Obama did it again. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. We simply can't afford it.
Fiscally, it is a huge problem. How much has the open border Biden policy hurt your state? The Palmetto State, right? South Carolina, the Palmetto State?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, on January 2nd of this year, the first work day of the year, I had a press conference with state and federal law enforcement agents. We indicted 64 people and seized 1.5 kilos of methamphetamine and 1 kilo of fentanyl By the way, 1 kilo of fentanyl can kill 500,000 people. All of it came from across the southern border in conjunction with Mexican drug cartels working with gangs. It came up through Atlanta into the upstate of South Carolina. This is the fourth or fifth major drug conspiracy that we have prosecuted in the last 3 years involving Mexican drug cartels piping in that poison into South Carolina. So it has a major impact.
Okay. How much of a problem is the trans kids in South Carolina? South Carolina is a red state. It's a conservative state, church-going state, traditional value state. How much of a problem is that trans thing for you?
I mean, we have the population of trans is so minuscule.
That's what
I don't
I
even
thought.
think.
Right. So it's more of a philosophical thing for South Carolina on the books than a thing that you're dealing with every day.
I mean, absolutely. But philosophical points matter. I mean, taking a stand on principle matters because it leads to other things in the future. Obviously, if we don't win this case in the Supreme Court, what does that mean for men playing in women's sports and vice versa? I mean, there is a slippery slope and the principle does matter.
Yeah, well, you're going to win. I mean, there's no way this court is going to take states' rights away for under a dubious premise. Because I agree with you. I mean, I can't imagine, because kids are kids and they change, and if once they're over 18, okay. But under 18, leave them alone. Help them out, but live right. I want you to have a nice Christmas, Mr. Attorney General. It's very nice of you to help us out today.
Merry Christmas.
All right, new poll by Scott Rasmussen about Hunter Biden's pardon. First question. This week, President Biden pardoned his son for all the crimes he may have committed. Do you favor or oppose? Favor 30, oppose 62, 2-1, oppose. Not sure 8. Second question. President Biden has said Hunter Biden was unfairly targeted by prosecutors for political purposes. Do you agree or disagree? Agree 37. Disagree 54. And then there's a footnote to Rasmussen's research. 46% believe the Justice Department unfairly targeted Donald Trump. And 42% disagree with that. Okay. Now, there are two big media obsessions. One is deportation of undocumented people. And the other is, will Trump take revenge on the people who tortured him? Those are their obsessions in the media. Okay. So Trump goes on Meet the Press on Sunday, yesterday, and here's what he said. Go.
Is it realistic to deport everyone who's
You have
here
no
illegally?
choice. First of all, they're costing us a fortune. But we're starting with the criminals, and we got to do it. And then we're starting with others, and we're going to see how it goes.
All right, that's an interesting statement. So the criminals are toast. All right, they're going to be gone if he can catch them, if the federal government can track them down. But he didn't say he's going to break in the doors of peaceful, undocumented people. He goes, we'll see how it goes. It's going to be a long process. It's going to be so many lawsuits. It's going to be insane how complicated it is if you are a non-criminal. If you're a criminal, he'll be able to get rid of you. Trump will. Now, I've done some analysis on this that you might find interesting. So if I'm President Trump and I am sworn in on January 20th, on January 21st, I say every mayor and governor in the country must cooperate with Homeland Security. And if you don't, we are going to charge you, the governor or the mayor, okay, or the sheriff or whoever it may be, you don't cooperate, with obstructing a federal investigation, which can be a felony. And then to make my point, I would send the head of the FBI, wherever it may be, probably Kash Patel, himself to California, wherever, to put the cuffs on the politician involved. You got to have the evidence. You got to have it. But and read that person their rights. I'd bring cameras in. That's what I would do. We're not playing anymore. That is my analysis on that. But what do I think is going to happen in the end? I think a lot of criminal aliens will be deported. I think Mexico will cooperate and put their troops on the northern and southern border, which will cut down the caravans and all of that, and the drug smuggling. And a lot of the wall will be built, and that will calm down. But interior, with the 15 million or whatever it may be, every state official has to cooperate or they get charged. Make sense to you? Bill at BillO'Reilly.com, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com, name and town if you wish to opine. All right, so I'm getting a lot of mail about why Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State under Donald Trump, 2018 and 21, isn't being considered for defense secretary, a job he could obviously do. There are two reasons now. I told you I would investigate, and I have. And I've found two reasons. The first one is that Mr. Pompeo has been a little bit critical of Donald Trump. Roll the tape.
First, if the allegations are true, and there's lots of indications that they are, President Trump had classified documents where he shouldn't have had them. And then when given the opportunity to return them, he chose not to do that for whatever reason.
Okay, so Trump didn't like that. But the second and biggest reason is that Pompeo has been a very ardent supporter of Ukraine and American military aid and money into Ukraine. Trump's not there, and he doesn't want another John Bolton. You remember that John Bolton, national security guy, was very, very bullish on interfering in foreign situations, and then Trump fired him, and he turned on Trump. So Trump fears that Pompeo, if he lets him back in, would do the same. That's it. Take it to the bank. And thank you for the letters, by the way. If you want to know about something, let me know. I'll find out. All right, Syria, Assad is gone. He ruled that forlorn country for 24 years. Been there briefly. Horrible place. You don't want to go. So the army wouldn't fight for him anymore. He got on a plane, went to Moscow, and Putin gave him asylum because he's been cooperating with Putin for 24 years. Putin's made a lot of money in Syria, by the way. If you read my message of the day about Putin, this guy. But can you imagine getting asylum in Russia? Is that really where you want to stay in the rest of your life? I don't think so. And he can't go anywhere. Assad can't go anywhere. Any other Arab nations wouldn't take him. Bad, bad guy. So right now we have a U.S. base in eastern Syria. Keep an eye on ISIS. ISIS is going to try to exploit this. We don't know the new leadership, but they don't have any power other than booting Assad out. They're former jihadists. Turkey is the main driver there. But Israel, obviously, if they don't like something, they'll come in. But this is good that Assad's out of there. Horrible, horrible. Now, the best summary I read was on Global Post. You get everything you want to know about this in one page. So you know that there are foreign news partners, Global Post, and they've offered a half off for all No Spin News watchers and listeners. It's globalpost.com. Okay? I think it's $23 a year. Well, you just go look at it today and see what they have. It's really good. So if you want international foreign news, and they're not shading it, it was just factor to factor to factor. I learned a lot. And it took me 6 minutes. Okay. Colleges dismantling DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Here are the latest. University of Utah and Weber State in Utah, University of North Texas, University of North Florida, University of Missouri, University of Michigan, whoa, They have one of the biggest DEI machines, and they are now cutting back, saying you don't have to make a diversity statement when you apply for a job. First step. Not woke, first step. Okay? Colleges, why are they doing this? Because enrollment's down big time. According to National Student Clearinghouse Research Center, kids aren't applying. I don't think the big reason is the woke DEI nonsense. I think it's the money. So it's $80,000 to go to some private universities. Now it's ridiculous. Absurd. Totally insane. Okay? Don't do it. Go to a state. You'll get just as good an education. So that's why I think is happening there. But it doesn't help if you come from a conservative traditional home. You can't walk onto the College of Yale. You'll be scorned and shunned. Your grades might be affected by it. You got to know where you're going. All right, California raised the minimum wage to $20, okay? And it was centered around the fast food industry. So, according to the Employment Policies Institute, we always back up our stats here. 6,000 fast food jobs have been lost in California in a year and 3 months. 6,000. So McDonald's, Taco Bell, In-N-Out Burger, they're going, we can do the same with less. But here's the kicker. AI coming in. And they're not going to pay people $20 an hour. So instead of keeping the minimum wage where the fast food joints can make some money, no. Virtue signaling, and now the industry is cratering. Thank you for watching the No Spin News. To watch the full episode anytime on BillO'Reilly.com, please sign up to become a premium or concierge member. Visit BillO'Reilly.com to sign up and start watching today.